Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Littles and Bigs podcast. I'm Biggs.
I'm Littles, even though I'm Bailey.
And I'm Liam. This episode is about our second big trip together and our first trip out of the country for both of us. We went to Canada. We were really just kind of hoping to get to Canada. We wanted to explore it. And Winnipeg was just the best option. It was only a 10-hour drive straight north from us. Along the way back, we stopped in Minnesota, but first and foremost, I want to talk about that drive. We went through Sioux Falls, and I remember it was St. Paddy's Day, and we wanted to get to Falls Park just to kind of see it, because I had heard about it.
Was that where that breakfast was?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, because we left at like 6:30 a.m. Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. We had to leave early because we were going all the way up that night. After finishing up at Falls Park, we were looking for a place to eat, kind of a brunch almost, I guess, because it was about 3 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going through downtown to try and find like a cafe or diner or something. Well, we happened to cross one of the main banks in the downtown area there.
You're having like a breakfast.
Yeah, they were just kind of having a breakfast
buffet
thing where they were serving green pancakes. They had sausage links.
Everything was green.
Yeah, I think they.
There was like a parade and stuff going on.
The parade hadn't started yet.
Okay, I was gonna say I remember driving down the main road and there was just so many people. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
St. Paddy's Day.
Yeah.
Well, St. Paddy's weekend.
Well, that was actually St. Patrick's Day, I believe.
Was Saturday.
Either way.
Green pancakes.
We stopped and had some green pancakes, some sausage links, a little bit of coffee and orange juice, and fueled ourselves up to head back out.
I was going to say, we didn't stay long. We ate, and then we got back on the road so that we could, because we were driving straight through, and the next stop after that was Fargo, wasn't it?
Fargo. Yeah, we stopped in Fargo. Can't for the life of me remember what we did. Did we even stop and eat? I don't remember.
I'm assuming we stopped and at least filled up on gas, yeah.
I do remember, though, it was either in between Sioux Falls and Fargo or Fargo and the border, but we were driving on the interstate and there was just a car in a ball of fire.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
You and Jenna were in the front, and I was in the back sleeping as much as I could the whole drive, and all of a sudden it woke me up and you could just feel the heat through.
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 lanes on that part of the interstate, and it was over pretty far on the shoulder, and we got in the furthest left lane, and I just remember driving by, and even that distance that we were away from it, I could feel the heat on my face. It was so hot.
Yeah. So Fargo, yeah, we didn't really do a whole lot in Fargo. And then there's like 2 main gas stations before you cross the border. It's the last exit before you get to
What's it called?
Border control. Duty free. Yeah, so we stopped at the duty free. Yeah, exchange currency, I remember that.
It's cheaper to exchange currency there than having to do it once you get into Canada.
Mm-hmm. So border crossing. We got up there and, standard, they ask you the questions and all that going across. And
you forget everything.
Even though you're not doing anything wrong, you freeze up and you kind of feel like, oh shit, do I have like a dead body in my trunk? What's going on here? You know, like
the first thing they ask you is, what's your reason for visiting? Mm-hmm. And automatically you're like, well,
to kill somebody.
I don't know why we're here. We should turn around. I don't know.
We're just here to visit. That's all. We just want to see the country.
So then we just had to tell them like what our plans were, how long we're expecting to stay. And it's mostly so when you come back, they have that noted down, I believe, under your license plate and your passport cards and everything.
But the main thing I wanted to know about that border crossing was asking about weapons, illegal weapons.
And they go through everything like it's the back of their hand. Do you have any guns? Do you have any knives? Do you have any? And the whole time, so you're like, no, I don't. No, I don't. And they're like, do you have any mace? No. And Jenna was like, wait, yes. And they're like, did you know that that's illegal in Canada? And we were like, no, we did not know that mace and pepper spray was illegal in Canada. He goes, you ever been sprayed in the eye with that? And I go, no. He goes, hurts like a bitch.
So right as you cross into Canada there's obviously the Welcome Center like there is for like most states and things of that nature. This one just happens to be a different country, but it's the Manitoba Welcome Center, and they were closed this time, but we still got some really cool pictures in front of the big Manitoba sign that they have out front. I just remember while we were there, a guy with like an adopted kid or something came through, took pictures for us, and then they were kind of celebrating because that kid had just gotten his Canadian citizenship.
Yeah,
so that was pretty cool.
That.
But when we were asking like what the temperature and the weather's usually like there, and he's like, yeah, we get all the way up to 30 sometimes. We're like, that's not And then we're like, oh shit, it's Celsius.
Yeah. That's really confusing right at first. The second that you cross the border, it's like your speed limit is 120 kilometers per hour. And luckily, I mean, if you look at your dash, you probably have the conversion on your speedometer.
Yeah,
but
most vehicles have
you're just not used to looking at it.
Finishing the rest of the drive there to Winnipeg, your maps kind of took us an odd route. So most of the time you're going to Winnipeg, you keep following the highway, but your maps took us the shortest route, which was kind of weird, but the drive wasn't too bad. And then got in and just kind of unloaded.
The Airbnb we stayed in was just like a 1-bedroom apartment.
It was a great find.
Yeah, I think we went out after that.
We did. I remember I was just kind of like, why are we going out? Let's go to bed so that we can explore all of tomorrow. But
it wasn't super crazy late. It was just
no,
late
it was just one of those things where
yeah.
it's like we were just in the car for 10 hours. I had worn sweatpants the whole drive, and then I was like,
put on jeans.
No, I didn't even. I mean, I think you guys did. You guys put on jeans. I was like, I'm staying in my sweatpants. Yeah. But then we got out there, and I was like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have stayed in my sweatpants.
Yeah.
We went to a few different spots. They celebrate St. Patrick's Day pretty big, and there was one we went into. Took forever for us to actually even communicate with one of the employees there, and then she said, oh yeah, we're having a private party and we're not serving food anymore to the tables.
And we wanted to get food because we were hungry.
Yeah, because we were starving. And then we found the Keg, which if you watch any hockey game, the Keg is advertised on any Canadian team's dasher boards. So we went into the Keg, and it was fairly fancy. It was good. And at the time, I think we were still pretty heavily budgeted, so we didn't want to buy a whole lot. And I know Jenna felt the same way. I think the two of you were still in college. We enjoyed the meal. I remember afterwards, the waitress, she was asking if we were partying afterwards. And I was like, we don't even go here.
We don't go here. Also, even if we did go here, we don't party. So
yeah.
If by party you mean go back home and go to sleep, we're not partiers.
No. But that was day one. Day two. Day two was designated for the Canadian Museum of the Human Rights, which that building is incredible. The architecture is so beautiful.
Yeah.
The content itself, a lot of it, as Americans, we don't really learn history about any other country, even the one that's...
Even our own sometimes?
Well, but... So a lot of it, they kind of hint at these little stories that you would probably learn in most school classes. History classes in high school or something, but we didn't really know about them. I remember there was one with a bunch of red dresses, and they kind of hinted at the story, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Moving on.
So day two really, aside from the Human Rights Museum, didn't have a whole lot. I think we kind of drove around downtown a little bit. We kind of got an introduction to what the Forks is. Which that's a really cool area of Winnipeg.
Drove by it and made the note to come back.
But yeah, day two just kind of ended. We were at the Airbnb watching hockey, and that's about it.
That part was pretty cool. And I think it was difficult because when you get to the point where it was one of the first days of actually being there and being in the city. So when that's the case and you want to go home and relax for a bit so you can recoup, at that point, when you look at your trip, you feel like you have the entire trip ahead of you. It's not until you hit Thursday, Friday where you're like, crap. So we just were like, hey, we came all the way up here. We have the whole week here. So it made it easier to want to relax at the beginning. I'm pretty sure I also had homework I had to work on still because it was just my spring break.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I had an assignment or two that was due.
Did. All right. Day 3. This one I was pretty skeptical about because we were going to go to the Assiniboine Park and Zoo. I didn't expect a whole lot because of the... cold. It was March. There was a lot of snow on the ground. It turned out being really cool.
Yeah. I think it was a lot bigger than we thought it was. And
it was, yeah.
I'm obviously up in Winnipeg. It gets pretty cold. So they have animals that are outside still. Yeah. And they have pieces and parts that are indoor too. So
pretty much all of the warm weather animals were not outside or available. The blog posts I have on my site, obviously we saw Canadian geese. The true Canadian assholes. Got a snow owl, a snow fox, a tiger, an eagle, and a camel. I think there's more, but I only included a few on the blog post. I don't know. I thought it was pretty exciting, and
I loved the foxes.
The foxes were adorable.
Yeah.
There was polar bears. I think they were either like sleeping the majority of the time, so like we couldn't really watch them. Or it wasn't too terribly entertaining. Yeah, I just remember we spent a lot of time by the foxes and
by the tigers.
And by the tigers. I do remember stopping at the food station though, and that was kind of where I realized Winnipeg is kind of owned by Coca-Cola.
I would have known no difference either way. I don't drink pop.
Well, and it's usually fine if like they have Dr. Pepper, because usually both of them will carry Dr. Pepper. But either way, I mean, the food wasn't bad. I know it wasn't like anything amazing or anything, but it wasn't bad. And I think that was the day that we went and explored the Forks and kind of walked around down there a little bit. And I think we maybe found somewhere to eat down there. I don't remember. Oh no, we did go to that
little mall place.
Yeah, that mall area, which was really cool. That it was like. It's like a 3-story mall, and there's a big, huge dining section at one end, and it was really cool. That night, I wanted to try and get out and find like a local park or something to try and take pictures at, so we went to Little Mountain Park. And
we drove around for a little bit trying to figure out where we could go.
Yeah.
And finally found this, and it was getting pretty dark by the time we got there, but it was still really cool.
It really is like a man-made park, essentially, because it's surrounded by like farm fields. So like it's wide open, you can see miles.
But before
and then there's a section, that little mountain park, that is just completely tree covered.
Yeah.
I do remember we started walking and we got lost for a little bit. And we're like, I don't know how to get out. And then it was starting to get really dark, and we're like, we got to find our way out. And then I think by the end it was like getting really dark, so we were kind of panicking a little.
Yeah. Well, when you get in there, like some of the spots there was like a path here and a path there, but other spots you were kind of just walking through the trees, so there wasn't like a specific path to take.
Little Mountain Park was really cool.
There's not a lot that compares to being able to put on your snow boots and go out in the snow, and you hike through and you just have the crunch of the snow underneath your boots.
Yeah. Barely snuck out of there before having a heart attack. Day 4 was the big one. Especially for me in the morning. We went to the official title is Royal Aviation Museum of Winnipeg, but it was the Air Museum. And I think when we were initially researching our trip, that was a big one that I had said, oh, we've got to do this. And it ended up being really, really cool, at least for you and I. By that point, we had gone to a couple air shows and tons of planes that I didn't really realize existed. I know, you're watching the Winnipeg updates.
Speaking of planes, the Jets are doing great tonight.
I wonder why they were named the Jets.
I have no idea. And they're up 3-1
against
the
McJesus and the
against
Oilers.
McJesus.
I really enjoyed the Aviation Museum. I think you enjoyed the Aviation Museum. We had to make sure that we got home that day because that was the big day and kind of the big reason we went up to Winnipeg. NHL Jets hockey game.
Speaking of the Jets.
We went to a Jets game.
Yes, Bell MTS, which is now Canada Life Center.
I've got a bone to pick first with the arena there. This first time we went, I was still super hungry because I don't think we left ourselves enough time to eat before. So I went and I got the greatest sandwich I have ever had.
We were walking upstairs. We skipped like the first 2 concessions because we were like, we don't need to get food right away. And then on the way upstairs, we saw this.
It was a maple waffle chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was so good.
And he got it.
Well, so I got it, and then we went up to the glass to watch warm-ups.
Yeah.
I was wearing a Lincoln Stars jersey, and the Kings had a player who was an alumni of Lincoln Stars, Paul Ledoux. And he noticed my jersey and gave me a puck.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Like, it was my second NHL game ever. And I got a puck from a former Stars player who was playing in an NHL game.
Not the team that we were there to watch, but the team that, had a former Lincoln Stars player on.
Uh-huh.
At the time, the Winnipeg Jets also had a former Lancer.
Paul Stastny.
On their team.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I had never had anything against the Jets. I think they were kind of up on my list a little bit. I knew I liked Buff. Big Buff was a great player and super exciting to watch. But, where we are, you don't really get a whole lot of news or a whole lot of anything about the Jets. You know, you kind of see a highlight here and there on Instagram.
They're a team.
Yeah, you kind of know they're a team, but other than that, you don't get a whole lot. So, you hear a lot, especially in this part of of the country, you hear a ton about the Avalanche. Going to the Jets arena, went in, we're like, all right, we're going to cheer for the home team. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be great.
We ate a maple bacon
and then
chicken sandwich.
This sandwich kind of stole the show at the beginning.
So we went all the way up to our seats after warm-ups, and you started eating your sandwich.
And
I took a bite of your sandwich, and I was like, all right, I'm going to leave.
You didn't go until it was almost end of the first period.
I was like halfway through the first period.
Yeah, and it was weird because it was like we're in an NHL game. We're the type of people, if the play is going on, we just don't leave our seats.
Yeah.
Of course, we're also used to arenas that hold like 3,000 to 5,000 people, and this was holding almost 20,000.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of an increase, but
a little bit.
I gave you a bite and you fell in love with it too. And then when you left about halfway through, I was kind of like baffled. I was like, what's going on? What's happening? And I think you had already just gone. You were just gone by the time I knew what was happening. And I was kind of like, look over. I'm like, Jenna, what's going on? Oh, she's going to get a sandwich. Oh, okay.
She's leaving during the first period. She had to go get herself a sandwich. Liam only gave me a bite, and I wanted more than one bite. He might say he shared multiple bites with me, plural, but he's wrong. He shared a single bite.
Well, yeah, you had it. Would you have shared it more than one bite? No.
Yes,
No.
because I love you.
No.
Yes.
No.
You realize that I would have been way more prone to sharing food with you than you were to me at that point.
You also grew up with 5 siblings, or 5 children in your family.
You grew up with a sibling.
Yeah, but we didn't share. We didn't.
Sounds like a you problem.
Well, no, it sounds more like a you problem because it doesn't affect me later on. It affects you.
And 6 years later, do you share food with me?
Yes.
Yeah, so you figured it out sooner or later.
Wow, you're making the levels peak with your laugh, too.
Joey doesn't share food.
So one thing, though, that I do want to note about the game that took us for surprise because we weren't expecting it is the Canadian National Anthem. In Winnipeg,
yes.
Once you get to the part of True North, Strong and Free, the entire crowd screams True North. And it is chilling. You did record the national anthem, though, because you wanted to hear it, and so you got it on camera.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you can hear me going like, oh my gosh, in the background of my own recording. Because it's, again, chilling. It
gives you goosebumps. So that game was extremely exciting.
I bought a jersey. Totally worth it.
That's the jersey you wear most often.
Yeah, it was on sale.
It was for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah. It literally fit me perfectly.
For me, hats are a huge thing. So I got a Jets hat. So I already bought that. And because we didn't know that the Jets were going to become our team yet, it was like, well, but because of the atmosphere, because of the fans, the Jets became our favorite team. The
Blues were your team. The Rangers were my team.
Then the Jets became our team. Yeah. One of the big things that made a huge impression on me was that when the puck was not in play, the stadium was loud. There was chitter chatter. They were, they're going back and forth. They were kind of chanting. When the puck was in play, it was like dead silent because everybody was watching the game. The fans are just so passionate there. Looking back, it's just like, well, yeah, obviously we're going to become Jets fans. It was such a cool experience. And then not only that, but the game went into overtime.
Yeah.
And Kyle Connor scored, which Kyle Connor also scored the first goal for the Jets. He scored the overtime goal as well. We were Jets fans.
Through and through.
Yeah.
Just want to be there for a whiteout.
Yeah. So the way that night ended was kind of weird, though. We, chased the King's bus.
I totally forgot about that.
I don't. Or I didn't.
Oh, my gosh. We left late because we always leave late. We always linger around and walk around and stuff. Well, we were lingering because
we wanted the crowd to go. We wanted to take pictures of the arena. We want, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we walked and we saw a few Kings players get onto the bus because they were going to go back to the hotel.
And we were like, hey, our car is not that far away and the bus hasn't left yet. If we get to the car, we can come back around the corner and try to follow the bus.
But the bus vanished.
Oh yeah, the bus like disappeared real quick. So then we ended up driving around, and then we ended up
we were trying to find somewhere to
where...
like either maybe grab a drink or like grab a quick bite before going back. But day 5, the notes I have from the blog post I wrote back then says that this was a toss-up day. I don't think it was. I think the only thing we knew for sure we were going to do was we were going to a comedy show that night at Rumors.
What do you mean? You just read that word for word.
Okay, I guess it's fine. I did not read it word for word.
Yes, you did. The only thing we knew for sure was that we were going to a comedy show at Rumors that night.
Oh, whoops. I guess I did. All right. So somehow we came across the conclusion, let's go to the Royal Canadian Mint, which that was really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
That's where I got my wallet. That's the Canada flag. And then the Mint are the ones who created the medals for the 2010 Olympics.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they had those medals displayed. Not only that, but the Olympics where Canada won the gold in hockey. Mm. I know as an American, I'm supposed to be heartbroken by that, but...
Oh.
That day, we also decided to go to the Winnipeg Legislation Building. And that, I mean, it was mostly just kind of going in and looking at the architecture a little bit and taking a few pictures. Which at the Mint, you're not really allowed to take pictures. But the Legislation Building, we were. Otherwise, there wasn't really a whole lot else. You know, we kind of walked around the building and... Massive
staircases, really tall ceilings, just beautiful architecture.
Bison statues, which were really cool.
Yeah, the pillars out at front, or the columns out at front that they always have on those massive buildings. Just really cool architecture and layout and stuff.
Well, and then it was just the comedy show that night.
Yeah, that was pretty fun because it was very... laid back. It wasn't like a comedy show where you're gonna go see like a really, really popular name. He was more of a local guy, and it was kind of cool to watch the 2 openers and him, and it was just very laid back.
So day 6, final full day in Winnipeg, and maybe I mentioned it at the beginning. I said, you know, don't plan anything for the last day or something. Let's use that to go back, because I think, you know, when we went to the Forks, we saw a few things in the shops down there that I kind of wanted to get. So I said, well, let's maybe put that for the last day here. And so that's what this day was dedicated to, was going back to the spots that we wanted to revisit, maybe look at some shops again and make those purchases if we decided that we want to.
Relax a little bit.
Be going
on a huge drive back home.
We went to the Assiniboine Park. It was actually really cool.
We went to that visitors type center.
They had like a little museum thing. That was the botanical area, was the garden. Garden.
Yeah, and then we stopped at that museum that had like art and stuff in there. Didn't it have something in there about like Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, there was an actual bear that they called Winnie, or I don't remember, but
Winnie.
Yeah, something like that. And yeah, I mean, it was a really cool building, and I was able to get some good pictures. And in that area out there was a little like pond that was beautiful, but yet, you know, it was covered in snow, but it wasn't like frozen to where we could walk or even skate on it or anything like that. So it was kind of that weird transitional period where you don't get the full bloom, but yet you don't get the fully frozen sort of thing.
Back to the final day in Canada, though, it was just relaxed,
revisit those places, kind of just get that last little exploration of the city that we could.
Shops, relax, hockey,
watch a little bit of hockey. Which brings us to day 7. We got up early and left, didn't we? Because it was a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, we got up early and left because the previous day we were trying to decide if we were going to get some Canadian whiskey and bring it back, and we were concerned because even though it was you and I buying for ourselves, when we crossed the border, Jenna was going to be in the car. Mm-hmm. So then you have to like convince them that you're really buying it for yourself and not for the person that's underage in your vehicle. So I remember just like going back and forth with whether we should return it because we were going to be getting up early enough the next day that the liquor shops would be closed. We didn't mention that at the beginning, but in Manitoba, the liquor cannot be sold in grocery stores.
It can't be sold anywhere but liquor shops.
Yeah, so you have to have like it. They were all called like local liquor, whatever, 101
and MLBO or something, Manitoba liquor
license something. I don't know, but yeah, it had to be like a licensed liquor place. So all of those places are obviously not open at like 6:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So we had to make the decision if we were going to return them. But we kept the alcohol because we were buying it. But it was definitely anxiety on our minds as we were driving back to the border because I didn't want to have to like. It's one of those things. You're not doing anything wrong. She didn't buy any alcohol for herself. But like the whole time you're like, there's a dead body in my back seat or something, and they're gonna figure it out. What if I accidentally have a gun? You don't accidentally have a gun.
So there's a few times I've kind of thought back about Pounds, that place in Fargo. The bathroom was basically just a big chalkboard that people were able to create artwork and stuff on and write on.
Had really good food.
The food was really good. The atmosphere, the whole
but wasn't it
restaurant was
in
really
Minnesota?
cool. No, it was in Fargo.
Was it in Fargo?
In downtown Fargo.
Oh, yeah.
But there was like Fargo, Minnesota or whatever as well, or something like that. I don't remember what it was called, but you were like right there on the border. And I remember there was that little town, and we found a hockey shop and went in because I was like, I want to go into a hockey shop. So I can't remember exactly that day. I mean, this blog post ends with Winnipeg, but I think that day we just, because it was a 6-hour drive, so that didn't really leave us with a whole lot to do. Yeah. So I think it was get to our Airbnb and kind of settle in, and then the next day was Mall of America, and then it was the Minnesota Wild game. Yeah. Which, Mall of America, that was the first time we had been there. I just remember that first time being disappointing.
I think it was just because we didn't have as much time as we wanted.
I think we were still kind of bummed about having to leave Canada because we were just having so much fun up there, and we were enjoying ourselves so much. And then, we were getting worn out because it was just pretty nonstop the whole time.
When we woke up, we were in that like guest house for our Airbnb, and it was really tiny.
That guest house was not good.
So we got there, we got settled in, and then didn't we go to like Applebee's?
I think so.
And then we went back and slept, and then we woke up the next morning and we had stuff to make like sandwiches. So we were trying to plan our day out so that we didn't have to go and buy a bunch of food.
We still ate at the mall.
Yeah, we definitely did.
I just remember that our first trip to the Mall of America was kind of disappointing, kind of a letdown. The Airbnb we were in, it just wasn't a good setup in general.
Anyway, I think we shared on our review that it was definitely made for like a couple, maybe a couple and a child, but not like friend group.
Yeah.
I also remember that I forgot my sunglasses at Applebee's, and then I could never find them again. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that Mall of America was bad. It just wasn't. It was kind of a letdown. It just wasn't what we were expecting.
We went on a Saturday, didn't we? So it was busy.
It was pretty busy.
But we went to Tim Hortons. I know that.
I think we just kind of walked around a little bit, and then we had a hockey game.
Hockey game. So.
Yeah. We've been to Minnesota multiple times, and it's
just not. I don't know. For this trip specifically, we went up to our regular nosebleed seats, and we watched the game, and it just wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
I'm kind of thinking we had our expectations a little bit too high.
Coming from Winnipeg?
Well, because they had said that the Wild was supposed to be one of the best arenas in hockey, and we got there and we're like, this doesn't compare at all.
It did not live up to what we were expecting it to be.
Yeah.
It was still a hockey game. I, for some reason, intended to cheer for the Nashville Predators until the first 5 minutes of the game, and then we were like, nope.
Yeah.
Go Wild.
It wasn't a bad experience. I think it's hard to live up to the Jets. That is one of the best arenas in hockey and one of the best fan bases in hockey. So maybe if we would have went to Minnesota before,
we would have been like, yeah, cool hockey game. And then we would have went to the Jets and we would have been like, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, going and breaking up our drive up and then not back down would have been miserable.
Yeah. So a little travel tip for you out there. If you're looking to travel and you're still pretty new and you don't have it down yet, make those long drives
earlier.
The start of your trip. And make the end those nice short ones because you're going to be exhausted.
And consider getting home either early Sunday morning or later Saturday night so you have a day of recovery, or take the Monday off or something, because that is a huge help as well.
Give yourself time to recover if you're taking a week.
Yeah, and depending on what you're doing, if you're flying somewhere and staying there the whole time and then flying back, I mean, you might just need the Sunday evening to recover because you weren't doing as much. But when you're driving 10 hours... going more places, which is what we end up usually doing.
Well, and that kind of even brings us into the end of this trip, and how we'll end this podcast off is we woke up early Sunday and left to go home. So then we had pretty much the rest of Sunday to...
Yeah, because the drive from Minnesota, even though people think it's long, it's really only like 5.5 hours. So
right around
straight through.
5.5 to 6, somewhere around there,
So with stops a little bit more, but if you wake up nice and early and head out, then you have a decent amount of your Sunday left still.
Which is kind of weird when you think about, I mean, obviously when it comes to like football and baseball, a lot of the people here choose Kansas City because that's, it's only about 3 hours away. But in hockey, a lot of the people here choose the Colorado Avalanche because they just kind of assume it's the closest.
Or even the St. Louis Blues.
Or even the Blues. But Minnesota's closer than both of them.
So, if you want to catch an NHL game, closest, Minnesota Wild.
Really not a bad drive at all, because a good almost midway point is Des Moines.
Yeah.
That's a good way to break up your drive a little bit.
But let's be clear. We were talking about the drive time. We were not talking about the team, because I would still recommend Colorado or St. Louis.
I haven't been to a
NHL
Colorado
experience.
game, but...
I have been to a Colorado game. And I would recommend the experience for both the Avalanche and the Blues over the Wild.
Avalanche right now would also be really cool because they are good. Yeah. They are very good.
I would also recommend Winnipeg, but,
Minnesota, though, if you do go, would be kind of cool because they've got one of the best young players in all the league right now in Kirill Kaprizov. So, really in any matter, if you're in the Omaha area, you can go to any of those teams and they'd be good. Blues are good. Colorado's good. Minnesota has one of the better players in the league.
Or if you're in Omaha, you could just go to a Mavericks game, because then you don't have to leave the city. So
that's going to do it for this episode of the Littles and Bigs podcast. Be sure to visit our website, littlesbigsadventures.com. You can find show notes, you can find photos, and you can find individual social media accounts for the two of us. Tune in next week for episode 3. I'm Biggs.
I'm Littles.
And we're signing off. Cheers. See you down.
Shut up.
Okay, ready? 3, 2. She's got her leg on my leg.
Excuse you.
And I was, out of school, so I was like, children.
Whatever. And then we go places, and he's like, Coke or Pepsi? And they're like, Coke. And he's like, oh.
Coke usually carries, like,
Mr.
Pibb or something. And I'm like, it's fine. It'll do in a pinch, but, Now Canada Life Center.
Canada
Life. Now Canada Life
Now
Center.
Canada Life Center. Liam already.
Blah, 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 blah.
Well, we knew it was gonna.
Well, obviously we know the Canadian national anthem was happening, but this is borderline stalking. This ain't.
It's not like we were stalking one guy. We were stalking the whole team. It's fine. Try through Discord. 4-0.
4-0. All right. So day 5. What?
Day 5.
So.
Action.
Go to a Stars game. Go down to Lincoln. It's only an hour.
Omaha Lancers.
Lincoln Stars.
Omaha Lancers.
Lincoln Stars.
Omaha Lancers. My dad's a chicken. The Omaha Lancer mascot is a chicken because he's the booster rooster, and you've been outruled.
That's going to do it for this podcast.
Omaha Lancers.
All right. So
Sheesh.
do it again. I swear I'm pushing you out of that chair.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Littles and Bigs podcast.
You're going to have to say it again. I was laughing. Ready? And go.